You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Not acceptable. CNN panel shuts down stuttering conservative as he tries to defend ICV based on an article by Matthew Chapman. ICV kills, then its defenders change the subject, the source of the fight. CNN panel was arguing about ICV after the death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Houston. Terry Schilling defended the agency and pivoted to fentanyl assaults and brought claims about immigration. Elliot Williams and Lulu Garcia-Navarro pushed back, rejecting the claim that enforcement was absent and calling the suggestion that violence is acceptable exactly what it is. Unacceptable. Who actually holds power? The institutional power in this story is not with the people talking on television, and certainly not with the dead men or the public expected to absorb the consequences. The power sits with ICV, the federal enforcement machine that can detain, transport, and act with lethal consequences under the color of law. That is the actor under scrutiny. Everything else is commentary layered over state force. Dillon's defense is a familiar political maneuver. Treat the armed institution as if it is merely reacting to chaos instead of producing it. That framing hides responsibility. It converts a government agency into a victim of circumstance and turns accountability into a culture or dispute. The misdirection. Schilling did what defenders of coercive institutions always do when the facts are ugly. He widened the topic until the specific harm disappeared. Fentanyl, rape, illegal immigration, and a general atmosphere of danger were all dragged into the frame to dilute the question at hand. That is not analysis. It is a fog machine. The death in Houston was not answered with a direct accounting of ICV conduct. Instead, the panel was offered an inventory of unrelated pain as if one tragedy excuses another. That is the moral rot here. Deliberate violence is recast as inevitable collateral damage, and the public is told to accept the terms of the institution because the institution claims to be fighting other crimes. The numbers are a shield. Williams pushed back on one of the central lies, that there was no immigration enforcement in 2023. The source text makes clear that this is false. Even at lower points, deportations were still in the hundreds of thousands a year. That matters because the point of the claim is not accuracy, it is alibi. When defenders say enforcement was absent, they are not describing reality. They are trying to normalize escalation by pretending the system had been asleep until now. That fiction helps justify whatever comes next. More raids, more detention, more deaths treated as administrative noise. The real pattern. This is the pattern. State violence happens, and the immediate job of its defenders is to shift the burden of explanation onto immigrants. Crime statistics or abstract national panic. The people with the guns and the authority become the least accountable figures in the story, while everyone else is drafted into proving they deserve not to be harmed. That is why reform language is so inadequate here. You do not improve a machine whose job is to cage, terrorize, and regularly aim names at the people it targets. ICV should be abolished, not rebranded, not retrained, not cosmetically supervised. Abolished. The system beneath the argument. The panel argument is not really about one death or one commentator's bad faith. It shows how institutional cruelty survives. By laundering itself through television, by swapping responsibility for rhetoric, and by forcing the public to debate the victim's context instead of the state's conduct. That is how coercive power protects itself in plain sight. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Ross Story for today's article, with the automated voice of Liberts. Thanks for listening.